This is the Dery Brothers Tribecast, a podcast for diehard Cleveland Indians fans. Presented to you by WaitingForNextYear.com. Now, here are the hosts, Matt and Todd Dery.
And it is another edition of the Tribecast, the Dery Brothers Tribecast. Matt and Todd talking Cleveland Indians baseball with you as we welcome you in for another week. Todd, what's going on, buddy?
Living that dream here on a Friday, D's. You know how it is in the beautiful 216. Sun is kind of out. Just 1 week closer to opening day. That's all that matters.
Well, we got a lot to discuss. Of course, I am so happy. I am ecstatic. I'm pleased with the fact that the Indians have added Hanley Ramirez. I know that people out there listening right now, typical Indians, typical Dolan, signing some old guy to a minor league deal. I think he's going to hit. We'll get into the Hanley Ramirez signing for sure and discuss what this means for the roster and for the lineup. Also, Tribe news this week, some games actually being played, Todd, which is exciting. I know you're happy about the 3 perfect innings from Trevor Bauer the other day. How about Bakewin going deep? You hate him. I'm giving him one.
That nickname, you can't call him that. That's what I was told. My insiders say he does not like that.
Well, tough. I like it. What about Dan?
It's like killing animals, though.
Here we go. What about? Let's talk some Daniel Johnson. Let's talk some money. Bryce Harper and Arenado deals are. It sounds like bad news for Francisco Lindor. All of that today here on edition 2 of the Dery Brothers Tribecast, brought to you by our friends at WaitingForNextYear.com. So, all right, Todd. This week, of course, starting games. Last week, really. We mentioned Naquin, the home run, Daniel Johnson doing well, but how much can you really take from the first couple weeks of spring training?
Well, everybody's trying to find their roles, especially in the bullpen in particular. It's kind of about testing everybody out. There was definitely some good things to talk about. Not just why isn't when's Frankie going to actually see the field. But, Monday, like you talked about in the open, Trevor Bauer going 3 innings, giving up just 1 hit and 2 strikeouts. He was very efficient. I think the goal for him this year, from what his quotes have told us, is that he wants to be more efficient. He wants to throw less pitches. And we've seen over the last, as he's gotten better, there's always, the last few years, as he's gotten better, it's always been like there's been one trouble inning. Or early, I think it was 2 years ago, it was, if he could just get past that first inning, he'll be good. So this year, with the new changeup he's been working on and the adding a pitch to his arsenal, it's good to see him be more efficient and only give up those 3, go 3 innings and give up basically nothing, totally blank.
I love when he was being interviewed by Andre Knott last weekend on that opening game. The spring opener, and he said, I threw 55 pitches in the alumni game at UCLA. I mean, the dude is absolutely insane. He could, if Tito needed him to throw 100 pitches in a spring game tomorrow, if like the entire roster of everybody on the staff got food poisoning or something, he could probably do it. I mean, that's how good he is.
He wants to.
Oh yeah,
every day if he could. I
mean, he's Shane Bieber looked good. The more I watch and I check these box scores out and I see when our true 5 starters are going, it makes you think that on any given day, we could have to eke out a 3-1 win or a 4-1 win or a 2-0 win. We could do it. And that's how good the staff is, and that's still how you win. I know the lineup isn't where everybody wants it to be, and I know the Indians don't have Edwin anymore, and Lindor's hurt, and Brantley's with Houston, but it still comes down to pitching, and that's still why I think this team's going to win the division.
Well, you're going to have to win games 4-1 and 3-2. That's with the way this lineup is. That's until somebody steps forward or these young guys step forward and all of a sudden, have career years or blossom and come into their own. You're going to have to rely on that starting rotation. And you mentioned Bieber. He threw 2 scoreless yesterday, which was great. Again, you had Bowers go 3 scoreless on Monday. We'll see, Carrasco, they're easing in Carrasco and Kluber into these games because obviously, not Carrasco, but, you've seen with Kluber in particular, the fatiguing and the amount of innings the guy's thrown over the last 5 years, I think nobody's thrown more innings in Major League Baseball than he has in the last 5 years, if I'm remembering that correctly.
I think you're right.
Yeah, it's very important to ease him in. Talking relievers this week, a guy that you're a big fan of on Wednesday, Jeffrey Rodriguez, went 2 scoreless, 2 strikeouts.
Hello.
Yeah,
let's go.
I know you love him. That's your guy.
I mean, he throws really hard, and I understand that the Indians have a plethora of in their arsenal. If we could talk some Jim Price, the art of pitching. I do believe that, for those of you listening, Jim Price is the Tigers radio analyst, and he has his own catchphrases and things he says, and arsenal, art of pitching, nice area. Anyway, Alex Wilson, all these guys that they've picked up, they're throwing 4 or 5 of them up against the wall and hoping a couple stick. And they've done that in the past. I mean, heck, Tyler Olson was a reclamation guy. Oliver Perez, has made the rounds. I'm just so glad that I don't have to look at the box scores and see the name Zach McAllister anymore. I mean,
one-pitch Zach, huh?
So bad, but
down in Texas. But Rodriguez is very. He came over in the Yan Gomes trade, and he's very intriguing because he throws very hard, and he's only 25, and you got years and years of team control on him. So that's a guy I think he's going to start in AAA. But that's somebody you will be seeing at some point this season.
I just don't understand why he should start. If he's one of the best guys, why not start him now? I mean, why not?
Listen, you don't know if he's one of the best guys, and you know how the game's played. Sometimes if these guys have options, they don't make it, and somebody who doesn't have options might make it over them. But there are so many, a guy like, here's the thing. Alex Wilson has a much better track record, okay? So if it comes down to we can keep Alex Wilson on the roster and throw Rodriguez in AAA, and if Alex Wilson is bad for a month and you want to get rid of him, then you bring up Rodriguez, then that's what they're going to do. But not to mention, you talked about this on the last pod. You know how Tito is with these rookies in particular. I mean, it takes him a while to get warmed up to him. He's got that LeBron James doesn't trust the young guys thing, kind of. So that wouldn't surprise me one bit if he starts in AAA. And the other thing is they got you got that Nick Whitgren and Neil Ramirez is on a pretty much a guaranteed deal. Olson, I think Olson might be out of options finally this year, actually. But
you might be right.
Yeah. So
I mean, the Neil and Ollie show, I'm good with. Tyler,
they were a nice bridge last year. I think it kind of went underappreciated that those two guys. Oliver Perez in particular, because he was consistent throughout. But those two basically saved the middle of the season. They really did.
It's funny talking about the bullpen, and I'm having shades of the Otero. Was it the Otero-Houston game?
OTOP, that one? I was there.
Oh, gosh. I mean, it can't.
When it came out, and it was Otero. Nobody knew what was going on in the stadium. And that OTOP thing was peak Tito right there.
That was peak bullpen from hell revise. It really was.
Bad.
It really was. And I look. Here's the thing with Rodriguez. You're right. If it comes down to Rodriguez or Otero, he's going to take Otero going to Minnesota in March, which to me is stupid. And I understand they don't want to. I guess they'd have to eat the salary, but ground ball Dan, come on.
Well, here. Otero in 2016 was fantastic. 2017 he was Last year he was terrible. We're going in the wrong direction here. But you do need a veteran presence out there. Tito loves those kind of guys. It's good to have him. If he's not pitching in any big spots, I can live with Otero being in the bullpen, absolutely. Good guy to keep around. Now, if Otero is the right-handed setup man in the 8th inning, we're going to have a problem.
Oh, big problem. Dery Brothers Tribecast Edition 2 here, courtesy of our friends at Waiting for Next Year. Thank you for listening to us. Subscribe to the podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or even on iTunes. All right, big news this week. I love it. I'm into it. I'm involved. Hanley Ramirez back in baseball and with the Tribe on a minor league deal at age 35. Weird year last year. Started off in April with the Red Sox as a first baseman DH type and he raked. And then by May, completely the bottom fell out. And then there were some reports of drug stuff and all this. And then he was out of baseball. This, the right-handed power bat, there we go. If we want to use some Tribe fan catchphrases, the right-handed power bat has been added, and it's probably not who fans wanted, and it's only a minor league deal, but I really like this move. I think this is when Tito does his best work, don't you think?
Listen, there's no downside to it. If he's not good, then they'll get rid of him. It costs them nothing. Even if he makes the team and he's great, it's $1 million lottery ticket. Excuse me. So there's really no downside to it. Where I have a problem with it is you're all of a sudden seeing, Hanley Ramirez, he's going to be bad. Tito himself mentioning how this is the potential middle of the order right-handed bat that we need, right? Now, I texted this to you and our boy Jeremy on our Tribe text that we have on a daily basis, and I believe what I had said to you was the fact that we're getting this excited and counting on 35-year-old released after May and not picked up again, Hanley Ramirez, to be the savior in the middle of the order is really not optimal.
No, but let's remember that this has happened in the past. I'm not saying Mike Napoli sucked before he came to Cleveland, but he obviously resurrected his career with the Tribe. We all know about Jason Giambi and his leadership, and everybody thought he was done. Not that he was anything but a pinch hitter at the time, but sometimes these veteran guys come to Cleveland, get with Tito, and figure some things out. That's what we have to hope for. It's not like he's 40; he is 35. Edwin, how old was Edwin last year? 37.
I think he was older than 35. Yeah.
So For as down a year as we thought Edwin had last year in terms of productivity, it was still a 30 and 100 type season. You just have to hope that magic wand and that pixie dust makes its way over to Hanley's locker, in Goodyear, and he starts hitting again. He looked pretty good in some of the YouTube highlights I saw from Winter League, albeit it's Dominican Winter League, but the guy's got a track record. I don't want to see him in the field ever. Ever.
I don't think you'll see him in the field unless he's playing first base in a pinch. There's no way they're playing him anywhere else.
No.
It sounds like DH is going to be the spot for him. What would be nice, by the way, Edwin was 35 last year. What would be nice if Hanley worked out is the fact that you can then move Jake Bauers to left field, and then your outfield doesn't look – it's still suspect, but it doesn't look nearly as bad if – you have Santana, Bauers, and Hanley Ramirez in that lineup rather than, whoever is going to be in the other three outfield positions. So I don't think that's that horrible. You also, you got to remember, Tito was, the manager of the Red Sox when Hanley Ramirez was a prospect with the Red Sox, so he's got a familiarity with them. And you sent me these quotes last night.
Oh, yeah.
And you absolutely loved it, so I'm going to read them to you so our audience can hear. So this is Hanley Ramirez. Said, honestly, I don't think it was going to happen if it wasn't going to be a contending team. I know what I want. I want rings and a chance to be with a good group of guys that like to play, that love the game, and that love to win. When you see a team like that, they have fun, they play hard, and they beat you. Those are the little things that make you think. When my agent told me that Cleveland was interested, I told him, make it happen. These, your thoughts?
No, let's call it what it is. The many people listening right now, and I'm not calling out everybody individually, and I'm not saying it's the entire Tribe fan base, and I don't want to alienate myself from our listeners, but it's complete bullshit when all these fans say the Indians never do anything, they're no fun, they're not going to win the division this year. It's a fun group. With Lindor and Jose and all these guys that are entertaining. I don't know why people don't go and watch this team. It's not like the tickets are that exorbitantly expensive. And here's a proven major league veteran. And again, these are quotes. He may be lying, okay? The leader of this country lies every day. I can't believe I just went to that, but I did. So maybe Hanley's saying, I had offers last year, but I didn't want to go to these bad places, and if Cleveland calls. But it just goes to show that even a 35-year-old Hanley Ramirez is saying, the Indians called? I'm on board. I'm coming aboard. How many years growing up? I'm 45, you're 42. Where the Indians also ran an afterthought, never could sniff a veteran free agent that wanted to come there. And now we've had this nice little run here lately, especially with Francona and the Antonetti Chernoff, boat ride here, that the guy wanted to come here because it's a winning place, and just gets me fired up. I'm happy he said that. It goes to show that the bloom isn't off the rose yet. I know there are fans thinking this is the end. The window, the door. What do they always say? The window's closing. Oh, shut up.
Well, here. I will say two things. Number one, the organization, the view of the organization in Major League Baseball circles, the Indians have about as good of a reputation as any organization from a front office and coaching staff and loyalty standpoint. I shouldn't say
correct.
Coaching staff.
You're correct.
I'm just lumping Tito in with that. Guys want to play for Tito, and they love him. Everybody understands, and this actually goes to the entire Shapiro tree. These guys are upfront and honest, and they tell the truth to these guys, and it's very refreshing. So we have a great organization in terms of reputation and dealing with them and agents and people. Listen, do they spend money? No, but they are up there in terms of one of the model franchises in baseball. They really are. And anybody inside of baseball circles will tell you that. On the other hand, and I go back to this again, these quotes are nice from Hanley, and I like it. That said, don't you think the Indians, if the Indians were interested in him last year during, after he was cut and he cleared waivers and his contract was no longer a problem, they could have picked him up then, right?
Well, nobody wanted him because there was some weird, I forgot the whole drug story, and if he was involved with drug dealers or drug dealing at some point. There was a weird story going around about him.
To quote the great Ken Carman and Anthony Lima, that's some reckless speculation there.
No, but there were some reports out there, and you mean the Ken Carman show with Anthony Lima?
Yes.
I love those guys.
Anyways, I went back and I looked, and I know what you're talking about. And basically, he was name dropped in a federal investigation, but he was never, connected to a fentanyl ring. But it was, again, somebody dropped his name in a deposition, and nothing ever came of it. So he was never really involved. Again, that's all reckless speculation.
But I think that there was the belief out there that he was going to, ride out the season. And you're right. Why didn't the Indians maybe make that call last year? Well, I mean, Edwin was a DH and Alonso was at first. There really wasn't a place for him. Now, like you said, with the versatility factor, if Santana has to go to left field one day, if Bowers has to go to left field, and the other guy's at first, and then Hanley DHs, there's an actual DH spot. I mean, the Indians haven't had a DH spot open in a very long time. Very long time.
And they've played the actual DH first. They've had that role, for a long time. You're right. And it would be, we always talk about that DH role could be some, doesn't have to be a guy. It can be a rotating cast of characters. And I thought that's where we were going to go this year. But, it's, again, don't get me wrong here. And I want Hanley to work out. I think it would be great if he found himself. That would be incredible. It lengthens your lineup. It gives you the right-handed bat that you need. So, again, it's a zero-risk situation for the Indians. I'm happy that it happened. Again, he's 35 years old, same age as Edwin was last year, as we said. So, hopefully it all works out. And, if it does, great. If it doesn't, then you're going to be looking back at the DH first base slot, most likely rotating between Santana and Bowers and, whoever else it might be, and that's currently on the roster.
At least there's some depth, Todd, when you talk about, all right, so if they move Bowers to left, Santana's at first, or whatever, vice versa, and Hanley's DHing, there is some depth there. We both have faith in Greg Allen. I'm not so sure he's going to be an everyday outfielder, but I like him. Certainly start
be some Greg Allen. By the way, 2 for 2 on Monday with a homer and a walk. 2 for 2 yesterday with a stolen base. He came to play this spring. I
hope so. And Leonis Martin's a good, solid veteran, a better glove in center field than I think people give him credit for. And he's got a really good arm. And Tito loves him some Tyler Naquin, and he'll probably be in right. But at least there's that option of having a few guys out there in some depth. And look, I know Kipnis doesn't want to move to the outfield, but if we get to the trade deadline again and the Indians are in need of whatever it is that they need and they got to move them for a third year in a row, And Zimmer, of course, is on the mend, and they think he's going to be back earlier than they thought. It's a good problem to have, at least, that there's some depth there, and that's what I think the Indians were thinking a month ago, 2 months ago, when we're all crying for them to make a move. Yeah, I want to make a move. And they're thinking, sign this guy, sign that guy. What about Marwin? What about Adam Jones? Whoever else was out there, Curtis Granderson, any of these free agent outfitters that were out there that people were speculating about. I think the Indians feel like, hey, we've got some depth, and we'll let it play out the spring and see who earns the jobs.
I think it's interesting you bring up Zimmer there. It's almost like, I know me, it's like I forgot about him, but I think that they view him as, okay, at the trade deadline, we're going to, it'll be like a trade acquisition. You get Zimmer back. I love his speed and defense, but I am still very, very skeptical that he's ever going to get that plate discipline that he needs and cut down on those strikeouts. And that's, so I don't know how after basically sitting out a year, they're banking on him just coming back when he still has, he still has to develop as a hitter. He really does.
No, I don't think there's any question about that. And we know his defense. I mean, the dude runs down everything. Some of the catches he made, the one diving catch on Sunday Night Baseball in Detroit was unbelievable. All right, a Dery deep dive. Let's talk about young Daniel Johnson. Of course, the key piece in the Yan Gomes trade. Many people upset that the animal got shipped out for two guys nobody's ever heard of. I kind of get trading Yan at his peak level and kind of a great offensive bounce back year for him that resulted in an all-star campaign in 2018. But getting this Daniel Johnson kid, I did some film review, as you are very aware. My wintertime, late nights, scrolling through YouTube and other outlets to watch Daniel Johnson.
Before you go any further, just for our listeners, nobody loves this team quite like my brother. And he says he's doing deep dives into film study of Daniel Johnson. He's not lying. He also
it's a sickness.
It's true. It is a sickness. Scouting Max Moroff, doing some film study. I mean, this is the real deal here, people.
I appreciate that, okay, but Max Moroff highlights were tougher to find. I literally had to go into my MLB.com app and go through some Pirates games and fast forward. It was a little bit more difficult. With that being said, Daniel Johnson, I just like his at-bats. I like his approach. I saw some of his minor league at-bats. I know he's off to a good start. Maybe he starts at AA or AAA, and maybe might not be just ready yet, but boy, oh boy, would that be nice to have I'm not calling him Kenny Lofton. Nobody's Kenny Lofton. And by the way, Kenny Lofton should be in the Hall of Fame. If Harold freaking Baines is in it, give me a break. Kenny Lofton should be in. And Kenny loves him some Kenny, and he probably would agree with me. But I like that Johnson could be a bit of a Lofton clone in terms of somebody that could slap it into the gaps, and he's got a triple already this spring. So that's a guy to watch out for. I'm excited about his potential.
So he was the 2017 Nationals Minor League Player of the Year. He is only 20. He's 20. Wait, I wrote it down in my show prep here. What's going on? I can't read. Sorry. He's only 23 years old. Hits lefty, throws lefty. He started last year in rookie ball, moved up to AA, and he hit a slash 269, 327, 739 OPS, stole 22 bases. Okay, 376 at bats, 92 Ks, 25 walks. I think that this is a guy that not this year, but next year could make himself into a factor. Again, from what you hear. Beautiful swing, a guy who can really, do some things on the base pass if need be. The fact that you would think that Yan Gomes was going to net, like everyone was like, oh, he's going to net you a top prospect. Okay. At one point, Daniel Johnson was a top 5 guy in that organization. So, like you said, trading Yan at peak value, to me, I had no problem with it. But to get Daniel Johnson back, I think this is a guy that we could, come to really like in years to come. I don't think it's going to be this year. I think there's other young outfielders that are going to be in front of him. But the guys that are in front of him are not exactly, other than Zimmer, you're not looking at any true top-tier prospects here. I mean, we know what Naquin is at this point. We kind of know what Greg Allen is at this point.
Mercado.
Your boy from the Buccos, Luplow. I don't know what we have in him, right-handed. So it's not like this is a tough position to break into. If you want to make it to the majors the fastest with the Indians, it's as an outfielder.
Correct. Yeah, and again, Tito would probably baby him, and he probably would need a year, maybe even more in the minor leagues. But it's just something nice to be excited about because it's been pointed out by every, the waiting for next year guys, the Let's Go Tribe guys. Everybody that I read always says, well, the Indians have not developed an outfielder of their own, and who knows how long. And I understand Johnson was via trade, but that is sometimes where the Indians have buttered their bread for sure, is making those deals for a Clevenger, for a Kluber when they were minor leaguers, and then they come up and they develop, and you've got them under team control for a very long time, and he's off to a good start in the spring, so I'm excited about it. All right.
Went deep on Tuesday, 2 for 3.
Right.
Hopefully we get to see some more of them.
For sure. All right, let's get into this, Todd. Dery Brothers Tribecast here for week 2. So Arenado gets an enormous amount of money. Yesterday, Bryce Harper signs the richest contract in sports history, 13 years and $330 million. What does that mean for the Indians and Francisco Lindor? It's a scary proposition. The first thing I thought of was, wow, Lindor's going to get $400 million. And I actually texted my wife and said, because she texted me, she's like, oh, Bryce Harper, what's up with that? And I had to kind of run it by her. And I said, well, Lindor's going to want $400 million. And, of course, she said, well, she's not going to get it from us. And I said, oh, probably not. But what does it really mean? Did it scare you to see that yesterday, that Harper's getting $330? So for Frankie, my God, I mean, he's a better player than Bryce Harper. He is. So you got to figure by the time he's up, he will want $400 million.
Here's the thing about Bryce Harper. He's got that star quality about him, big home run hitter, knocks off the helmet, the hair flying, whatever. Only 26 years old. Here's the scariest thing that I saw when I saw that he signed for 13 years. So in 13 years, I will have a 25 and a 22-year-old, and I'll be 56 when that contract's up, okay? The good news is I'll hopefully be done paying for college at that point, but who knows? But, what does it do for Lindor? So Harper is 26 as he hit free agency at 26. Frankie is going to be 27 when he hits free agency, so it's a year. Now, I am of the opinion personally that Frankie is here for this year and next year, and then will be traded with a year left on his contract, because that's what you're going to have to do. If you think unless and again, I'm not going to the Dolan's cheap card, because I am a fan of the Dolans. I love the stability. I love how they do things. Do I wish they spent more money? Absolutely. But you can't have it all. Anyways, I am of the opinion that that's what's going to happen, because face facts, the ownership here, and I don't know if it's smart business anywhere, unless you're New York or Philadelphia or Los Angeles, to spend that kind of money on a player. If the Indians were to sign Frankie Lindor, let's say tomorrow they say to him, we'll give you 5 years and $200 million for 5 years. Okay, right now. I don't think an organization like the Indians can. Frankie knows it. He probably had that opportunity in the last 10, but I'm going to wait and hit free agency and bank on myself. When he sees $330 million for Harper, like you said, how does he not say, I'm a better player than him? I'm a Gold Glove shortstop. My numbers are just as good as his. So for somebody who's 27 years old, is a better player than Harper, is, as much as everyone loves Bryce Harper and the home runs, nobody has a better smile and loves the game, outwardly like Frankie does. So he probably says to himself, well, if Harper's getting 330, I'm going to get 400. The Indians know it. He knows it. And I think the writing's on the wall, and everybody knows it. It's just something they're not going to talk about.
Let me say this. Everybody says one thing. They say if the Indians don't re-sign him and let him leave or walk, they already have the 24th, 25th, 26th best attendance out of 30 plus teams. Then you're going to have a real empty stadium. You wonder if the Dolans, I don't know how they do it and figure it out. But you wonder if they go publicly and say, look, we offered him $400 million or something of that nature. You don't want it to get crazy. You don't want this to turn into the Mike Ilitch situation where they went public with Max Scherzer and put out a press release that they made him this crazy offer, which was extremely poor PR. What if the Indians looked up and said, there's nothing we can do. We offered him everything. We offered him the $400. He didn't take it. I think they'd be foolish not to give him whatever he wants because he is better than Bryce Harper. I just don't know if that's realistic right now.
I was going to say, yeah, would it be foolish to not, I agree with you, but in reality is it's not going to happen. And so I think that we play out the next 2 years, and then in that winter of the year before he hits free agency, I think you have to. I think it would be organizational malfeasance to keep him on board. I think you have to trade him. You do in 2 years, but enjoy him while we can. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. The Indians are still a playoff team right now, and they got to just, not worry about it. I'm sure Frankie's not worrying about it. And from what I hear, he's handling it properly for sure, but this is a guy who is going to want to hit the free agent market. I don't see any way that he doesn't.
Be very, very interesting. And again, a lot of it's too is going to depend on where this team and this organization is in the next couple of years. If it turns out that Jake Bauers becomes a stud and Clevenger and Bauer and these guys become some of the best pitchers in the game, and Kluber still has it, and Bieber becomes unbelievable, and maybe like we mentioned, a Daniel Johnson or a Zimmer or Allen, one of these guys turns out to be great, and Jose continues to be good. And again, all those have to come into play, and all those things have to fall into place. But if that's the case, then Lindor would look bad for wanting to leave this situation if the Indians made a fair and reasonable offer. But if he just wants to hit the open market and fly around and do a LeBron tour, hey, that's more power to him. He has that right to do that. But I just love the people that say, well, he's gone. It's over. There's no way. I would hope the Dolans would at least try. Yeah,
you know what? There's no way they're not going to try, but I think that when I saw the Arenado extension, which was 8 years and $260 million at age 27, he obviously loves being in Denver and is okay with the where the franchise is to sign that deal. I mean, that's the thing. Tomorrow it could all end, right? He could snap his leg and never play another game again. So there's always that in the back of your head. But, these guys everybody thinks they're invincible when they're a pro athlete. No, nobody ever thinks anything bad's going to happen to them. That's why, Carrasco is the one guy that I can remember over the last, decade even, who took significantly less money knowing he was going to hit free agency in a couple of years. And he did it twice because for financial security, basically saying, how much money do I really, truly need? I like it here. I like the stability of the franchise. I love the city. Why would I want to go anywhere else? So I'm going to take that up front. He also had this heart scare a few years ago, so that probably pushed him in that direction too. But
he was also a complete mess. He's the
exception.
He was also a complete mess, and until he finally got out of the windup and got back in the rotation at 27, 28, when it was like, all right, when are we finally going to see something from Carlos freaking Carrasco, who was the gem of the Cliff Lee deal? It turned out to work out.
Forget about Jason Knapp.
Okay, we're done. So, dude, we're
name the other trivia time. Don't cheat. Who are the other two players that the Indians got?
Jason Donald, right?
JD was from the Reds, dude.
Oh, Jason Donald wasn't in that deal?
No, Jason Donald was in the Chew trade.
Carrasco, Jason Knapp.
Oh, it was Jason Donald. Sorry, I'm lying.
I knew I had that one right.
Jason Donald is correct, and then the fourth guy was who?
It was a pitcher.
No, it was not a pitcher. It was a position player.
No idea. Who was it? Lou Marson?
Laser Lou, baby. Come on.
Wow. All right, that's going to wrap it up, dude. Always a pleasure. Was a lot of fun to do edition 2. I hope people enjoy the open and the music at the start. I'm leaving you in suspense. You're going to hear it with the listeners like everybody else.
Can't wait, my friend. Can't wait.
All right, there it is. Todd Dery, Matt Dery, Dery Brothers Tribecast for this week. We'll talk to you again next week. WaitingForNextYear.com.